Chapter 1, Learning and Acquisition. Concept of learning. Learning is a process of acquiring new skills or knowledge and improving the existing skills also. An individual undergoes a change in his or her knowledge and behavior on account of learning. Everyone is different from one another in acquiring skills means everyone has different rate or speed of learning. Certain factors such as environment, learner's ability and motivation, teachers' capabilities, and ways of imparting knowledge all impact a person's learning experience. The critical period hypothesis states that the first few years of life constitute the time during which language develops readily and after which language acquisition is much more difficult and ultimately less successful. A commonly drawn, though not absolutely necessary, corollary of the CPH is that any language learning which occurs after the age of puberty will be slower and less successful than normal first language learning. Types of learning. There are three types of learning. First is motor learning. Most of our activities in day to day life refer to motor activities, example, walking, running, driving, climbing, etc. All these activities involve muscular coordination. Second one is verbal learning. This type of learning involves the language we speak, the communication methods we adopt, example, signs, pictures, symbols, words, sounds, etc. are the tools used in such activities. Third one is conceptual learning. In this form of learning, we require higher order mental processes like thinking, reasoning, intelligence. With the use of these, child learns different concepts. Factors affecting learning. Certain factors affect learning of individuals. These factors can be divided into three categories which are as follows. Factors related to learner. The factors related to learners are as follows. First one is learner's motivation determines the intensity of learning. Second is learner's efficiency or mental capacity. Third is learner's interest and aptitude towards the subject. Fourth is learner's general health. Fifth is learner's attention, readiness, and willpower. Factors related to teacher are teacher's command over the subject. Second is teacher's way of communicating. Third is teacher's personality and attitude towards learners. Fourth is teacher's behavior with students. Factors related to environment, teacher, teaching material, and human resource are: first is conducive environment to learning. Second is structure and size of classrooms. Third is availability of appropriate subject material to facilitate the learning process. Fourth is home environment of the learner. RT Act. The Right of Children to Free and Compulsory Education Act 2009 or Right to Education is an act of Parliament of India enacted on 4th August 2009 which describes the modalities of the importance of free and compulsory education for children between 6 and 14 in India. The RT Act is the first legislation in the world that puts the responsibility of ensuring enrollment, attendance, and completion on the government. This RT stipulates that no child admitted in a school shall be held back in any class or expelled from school till the completion of elementary education. It also stipulates that no child shall be subjected to physical punishment or mental harassment. The Act wants that learning should be in a manner which is child friendly. Concept of acquisition. When language is learned naturally and without any systematic practice, it is called acquisition. The term learning and acquisition are complementary. Learners acquire language when it is used in natural environment. Language acquisition. Language acquisition is the process by which humans acquire the capacity to perceive, produce, and use words to understand and communicate. This capacity involves the picking up of diverse capacities, including syntax, phonetics, and an extensive vocabulary. This language might be vocal, as with speech, or manual, as in sign. Language acquisition usually refers to first language acquisition, which studies infants' acquisition of their native language, rather than second language acquisition, which deals with acquisition in both children and adults of additional languages. The capacity to acquire and use language is a key aspect that distinguishes human from other organisms. While many forms of animal communication exist, they have a limited range of non-syntactically structured vocabulary tokens that lack cross-cultural variation between groups. Concept associated with acquisition and learning. Concept of various scholars associated with learning and acquisition are as follows. Piaget's concept. This concept states that learning starts with adaptation, assimilation, and accommodation. He also said that classification was also important in learning language. Certain words and sounds needed to be grouped together to better understand and use them in speech. Through assimilation, the learner takes the information and changes it to make it suitable for him. Concept of Chomsky states that every person possesses a language learning device or LLD, which is a hypothetical tool hardwired into the brain. It helps children in rapidly learning and understanding a language. He also states that all children are born with an understanding of the rules of language, they simply need to acquire vocabulary. Vygotsky's concept of learning and acquisition. Vygotsky was of the opinion that social interaction played an important role in the development of cognition. According to him, community also plays a central role in the process of making meaning, and learning is a necessary and universal aspect of the process of developing culturally organized, specifically human psychological function. In other words, higher mental processes in the individual have their origin in social processes. He places more emphasis on the role of language in cognitive development. Pavlov's concept of learning. Pavlov propounded a new theory of learning known as classical conditioning. According to him, classical conditioning is a reflexive or automatic type of learning in which a stimulus acquires the capacity to evoke a response that was originally evoked by other stimulus. Classical conditioning is based on habit formation. Pavlov was of the view that humans learn due to some stimulus. Now, language development in children. Communication between people who know each other and respect each other is one of the most important factors in language development of the child. Children need to learn a language in order to understand things around them. It is through language that they express their feelings and communicate with each other. With the development of language only, the children are able to represent and express new ideas and complex matters also. When children are not able to put their feelings into words, they are very disturbed, and this situation can reduce or damage their self-esteem. Initial stage of language development. Desire to communicate starts at birth. Babies learn quickly how to get their needs met by crying, cooing, and making eye contact with their immediate family. A child's overall development and his mental health is affected greatly by his ability to communicate in a variety of ways. Words are the most important tool through which a child gets connected to his family as well as to the rest of the world. Through words only, a child stores information and parts with his feelings and experiences. Children as young as 3 years of age already possess a remarkable knowledge of language structure and syntax, which is so complex and precise that it must challenge any known learning theory to account for its acquisition. Actual stage of language development. Initial years of childhood can be called preparation time for learning a language. The language development starts with the oral expressions which a child uses to express himself. He or she learns a language through words, sentences, and then complex structures. After a child starts going to school, child develops ability to read as well as write. Slowly the child becomes proficient in all types of learning skills, from listening and speaking to reading and writing. Language development thus helps him not only in using language as an expression tool, but through proficiency in the language the child becomes knowledgeable and changes into an all developed personality. Development of vocabulary. In the initial years of growing up, child's vocabulary also grows manifold. Children typically understand or recognize more words than they usually speak. When the child is 1 or more and half years old, he understands more words than he speaks. Tables showing vocabulary of children in different age groups, children's age and children's vocabulary. So if the child is from birth to 8 months, 0 words; from ninth month to 1 year, 3 to 4 words; up to 1.5 year, 10 to 12 words; up to 2 years, 272 words; up to 2 years 6 months, 450 words; up to 3 years, 1000 words; up to 3 year and 6 months, 1250 words; up to 4 years 1600 words; up to 5 years 2100 words; up to 11 years 50,000 words; up to 14 years 80,000 words; 16 years and above more than 1 lakh or million words. Vocabulary learning is of a child in different age group is shown below. Child reaches school age and heads to kindergarten, he or she will have a vocabulary of around 2000 words. Talking and reading are very good source of vocabulary development in child. Parents or other family members must talk to the child about his or her school day at school, about teachers, about books she or he checked out at the libraries, or something funny that happened at school, etc. It is important to encourage children's vocabulary development so that they develop the language and literacy skills necessary to succeed in school. Strategies to increase vocabulary. Some tips or strategies to increase child's vocabulary are as follows. Follow your child's lead. If parents talk about what interests the child, he or she may pay attention and learn new words. Don't bombard one child with new words. The child should be given time to make a response and use his or her vocabulary to express feelings. Children need to hear a word repeatedly. Help one child to understand what a new word means, along with speak new words. Some actions or gesture should follow. It really helps in acquiring new words easily.